Nyla Rose. We're going to talk a little bit about Nyla Rose, talk a little bit about AEW. Side point, the ratings for AEW Fyter Fest just came in as expected. NXT won in overall viewership for the third consecutive week. AEW wins the demographic, the key demographic again, apart from the 50 plus demographic, which NXT wins every week. Not really a lot to say when it comes to that, really. I mentioned it in the few videos that we've done about NXT and AEW this week. It was expected. Actually, total viewership from both shows is down, which is slightly surprising considering you would think that both shows would build to a crescendo, should we say, but wasn't the case. Not much to speak about there. Obviously, I'll let social media do the talking there, as I'm sure it always will do. But we're going to talk specifically about Nyla Rose. Now, Nyla Rose made her return to in-ring action last night on night 2 of Fyter Fest. She beat two random people, two random females in a handicap match. I was a little bit perturbed slightly by the way that they advertised it. They advertised it as Nyla Rose is going to be facing this mystery competitor, and obviously it was to get people hyped, get people wondering who could Nyla Rose be facing, who could AEW pick. Could it be someone from the AEW roster? Could it be someone else from outside the roster? Some people were even speculating that it was going to be Tessa Blanchard. It wasn't. It was two random people, so let down there. And I don't think Tessa Blanchard is going to go to AEW anyway, to be honest. But the main talking point about Nyla Rose was what happened after the match. It wasn't the match itself, wasn't the fact that she went against two random people. It was the announcement she made after the match. Now, Nyla Rose, she said after the match, she's looked around, looking at the landscape of AEW, and she's noticed that a lot of top superstars, the people that are successful in AEW right now, getting into the top positions, all have a manager. So she has gone out of her way and she has found herself a manager. But she did not reveal the identity of said manager just yet. She'll reveal it when the time is right. She mentioned the likes of the managers already in place in AEW right now. So obviously Arn Anderson with Cody Rhodes and the Nightmare Family. You've got Jake Roberts with Lance Archer. You've got Tully Blanchard with Shawn Spears. But now we're going to have a manager in the women's division, and I like it a lot. I really like the idea of a female talent having a manager. If you're going to have, which you should, if you're going to have your women's division be equal to your male's division, which they absolutely should be. It's 2020. Women's wrestling can draw. Sasha Banks versus Io Shirai. Hello. They proved it last week, and they continue to prove it on Raw and SmackDown. Women's wrestling can draw. It does draw. And AEW need to... Look, their women's division is improving. Their women's division is improving. I think that's the best thing I can say about it right now, to be honest. Ever since AEW, they started their shows last year, and they started AEW Dynamite in October, the real thing that a lot of criticism has come in for is their women's division. Their women's division just, quite frankly, hasn't really been good enough, is it? When you compare it to the likes of the WWE women's division, the NXT women's division, even the Impact Wrestling Knockouts division, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it? It's nowhere near. Now, it has been slowly improving, the AEW women's division, I must say. You look at the current champion, Hikaru Shida. I think Hikaru Shida could get on any female roster in the world right now. She is just that good, and every single match Hikaru Shida has on AEW television or on pay-per-view at the moment is just really, really good. You think of the match she had last week with Penelope Ford. That really surprised me. Not really the Hikaru Shida, but I thought Penelope Ford really stepped up her game last week. I thought that was great. I thought it was a really good female match. And also, Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida at Double or Nothing. I thought it was great. I thought it was a really, really good match. It was a street fight. Just great match. They kicked the crap out of each other, and Hikaru Shida and Nyla Rose can go. Now you're starting to build up a bit of a solid female roster now in AEW. You think of, like I said, Hikaru Shida, who is the top, not just because she's the champion, but I think she's just the best women's wrestler that AEW has right now. You've got Nyla Rose, who I think is such an attraction. I think she's just, the potential there is absolutely tremendous. Her character, her entrance, her physicality, her strength, her dominance. I think it's just, there is so much there to work with. Some people don't like her. Some people say that she's one-dimensional or whatever. I think Nyla Rose is great. I think she's, like I said, such an attraction, so unique and so different to anything certainly on the AEW women's roster right now. But you look at all the other female rosters out there, who is the sort of big female out there that can compete with Nyla Rose? I don't think Nia Jax. I think Nyla Rose is better in the ring than Nia Jax, quite frankly. So Nyla Rose is so unique. So I'm a big fan of Nyla Rose. I think there's so much potential there. And then also you've got the likes of Britt Baker, who is just in her role model character at the moment. She is just, every single week, she's just nailing it. Those promos and those vignettes, they pop me every single week. They're great. They are really great, so entertaining. So the division is coming along. They've got Amadon, who is terrifying. I mean, honestly, her entrance the other week. Genuinely, at one point, I don't know if this is good or a bad thing. I thought, do I switch this over? Because I hate horror films, right? They scare the hell out of me, and that was a little bit scary. I was like, oh my god, like, is this woman okay? So, but it's great. I mean, it was a bit of the rubberneck effect, right? You couldn't turn away. It was so car crash that you couldn't turn away. So I like her. So the division is slowly getting there, but I really, really like the addition of a potential manager here. Now, as I mentioned, Nyla Rose hasn't revealed the identity of the manager of who's going to be managing her in AEW as of yet. She's left that to be revealed at a later date. Apparently on I believe it's the Uncensored podcast, or maybe it was on the post show or something like that. I haven't seen it specifically, but I've seen it on social media. That Nyla Rose has confirmed that this is a female manager, which is great as well. I think we mentioned the likes of Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Jake Roberts. It's great having them in AEW. AEW's use of the legends as coaches or managers or whatever you want to call them has been really, really good. And when they've used them sporadically, look, they're always there, but in terms of the promos, they're not taking away from the talent. I think that's the most important thing when you have a manager. A manager should enhance the talent. It should help them where they have deficiencies. You look at Taz. I forgot Taz. Good gosh, Taz. I mean, it's only the number one contender for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, the new FTW champion. I forgot Taz and Brian Cage. How dare I? Taz. You look at Taz with Brian Cage. Brian Cage, weakness is obviously on the mic. Physically, he's looks like he's been chiseled out of granite, and he probably hits like he does as well. Hits like he's made out of granite too. But Taz, where Taz fits into that mold perfectly, is that Brian Cage is lacking slightly on the mic. Taz just spits straight fire. Every promo he has had, it's just been out of the park. So that whole combination, that works. You have Jake Roberts and Lance Archer. Jake Roberts, again, it's the promo side of things. I think Lance Archer can cut a decent promo, but Jake Roberts, look at the way that he built up that feud against Cody going into Double or Nothing. That's the benefit of having Jake Roberts there. Arn Anderson, it's more, I think, just the package of it. Because you look at Arn Anderson, Cody Rhodes can talk. There's no problem there. It's just, I think the fact of having Arn Anderson at ringside just makes Cody look like this more professional babyface, right? And then when he's been used sporadically to cut a promo, we all know that Arn Anderson can cut a promo. The promo he had with Jake Roberts leading into Double or Nothing was great. The promo that Arn Anderson had at the press conference for Jake Hager versus Cody a couple of weeks ago on Dynamite was great. So when they use him like that, it's great. But I think just having Arn Anderson at ringside just adds an extra level of credibility to the match. And we've seen the same, not as much with Tully Blanchard, I must say. But when Tully initially got involved with Shawn Spears in that Cody feud, he cut a few promos there. I think the best Tully Blanchard promo we've seen in AEW wasn't actually even on TV, it was on social media. Prior to giving Shawn Spears that black glove, Tully Blanchard cut a hell of a promo, almost dressing down a little bit Shawn Spears on social media. So that was great. So my long-winded diatribe there is saying that AEW's use of managers, use of legends as coaches has been great, and I really like the idea of a female manager being added to the women's division. So who could it be? That was the big question, right? Nyla Rose didn't reveal the identity of who this female manager of her is going to be. So who is it? Now I've had a few guesses. And we'll go through them here. And I think each one could really work here. Now, before we go into the names, I must say that Nyla Rose, I don't think, needs a manager in the sense that Brian Cage needs Taz to speak, because you saw Nyla Rose's promo last night. She's great. She's a beast. She can work. She can cut a promo. I think this is the Cody Rhodes style of requiring a manager. It's just to elevate them through status, right? If you have a legend or you have a crafty businesswoman, shall we say, or just a legend in the business, it takes your status from one level to another, right? And it ultimately might get more people watching, right? I don't want to be that guy, but AEW might need more people to get watching if they're going to beat NXT. I think they'll beat NXT next week, to be honest, but it's something that gets people talking and keeps people guessing. So without further ado, let's go into these names. First name that came to mind wasn't the obvious one, actually. The obvious one I'll go on to in a second. The first name that came to mind here was Awesome Kong. Now, Awesome Kong we haven't seen for a while in AEW, but she was part of those early AEW shows, and she was part of the early AEW Dynamite shows. Of course, she was with Brandy Rhodes, right? Brandy Rhodes kind of decided to go away from Cody Rhodes and the Nightmare family, right? Brandy Rhodes turned a heel. I know so many people have almost forgotten this because it was so forgettable and bad at the time. But Brandy Rhodes sort of distanced herself from the Nightmare family. She was going to do her own thing. She was going to have her own stable in the women's division, right? She was going to have what she called the Nightmare Collective. And you had these bizarre promos and bizarre vignettes. And she had Awesome Kong as her heavy, as the person that was backing her up, as her bodyguard, should we say. And then this Nightmare Collective grew and grew. We had Mao go in there, the shaved head Mao. And then we also had the shaved head Luther go in there. The King of the Death Match is right. And that stable was just, horrendously bad. It was really bad. The promos were bad. The matches were bad. The whole thing was bad. I think AEW knew it was bad because it would just get slated every single week on social media. And maybe some people, I would say, definitely took it too far in some of the things they were saying to Brandy Rhodes, but it didn't work. The gimmick didn't work, and they dropped it rather quickly. Brandy Rhodes went into therapy. I'm using that with air quotes, therapy, and then suddenly turns back into the babyface. She's managing the Natural Nightmares now, and she's with the Nightmare family once again. She's a babyface. It's the best role for her, I think, with the occasional getting in there and wrestling a few matches. So Awesome Kong, at the end of that, before the Nightmare Collective fully disbanded, she was sort of kicked to the curb by Mao and Luther and Brandy Rhodes. At the time, this was because obviously she was still filming Glow on Netflix, but also she has a lot of injuries. Now, we know that Awesome Kong, I think, has maybe worked, one, maybe two matches, if that, in AEW. She was part of, was it the first Double or Nothing she was part of? She came out, Brandy Rhodes said, I want this match to be good. Not just good, I want it to be awesome, and then brought out Awesome Kong, and then Awesome Kong was in the match, but in a very limited role. That's because she's had numerous back operations. She's got quite a severe back injury, and her days in the ring might actually be numbered. I don't know how many more matches Awesome Kong has in her. Certainly her career has just been, out of this world, right? Her work in Japan and her work in TNA in the day, Impact Wrestling with the likes of Gail Kim. I even really liked her run as Karma in WWE. It's such a shame that got cut short due to the pregnancy stuff, but I really enjoyed that. And I think she could be a real... I like the idea of Awesome Kong and Nyla Rose being together because I like the idea of a current beast being paired with a former beast or legendary beast, right? Can you imagine that dynamic? That dynamic would be really fun, I think. Now, does Awesome Kong cut a great promo? Well, back in the day, she had in TNA, she had Raisha Saeed, didn't she? Cutting the promo, which was, I believe, was it Cheerleader Melissa under the mask? So Awesome Kong has never been one for cutting loads of promos. She did a couple of times in WWE. And obviously we know she can talk because she's great in Glow. She's, fantastic, one of a really interesting character in Glow. So obviously she can recite verbiage, she can cut a promo. I don't think she needs to though, because like I said, Nyla Rose can cut a promo, she can work. Awesome Kong really doesn't have to get physically involved. I just think the image and the package of having Awesome Kong and Nyla Rose together, the modern day beast and the legendary beast together, I think that's a really interesting dynamic that they could go into there. Whether or not I think they'll do that, I don't know. Like I said, Awesome Kong, I don't know her physical situation at the moment. I don't know her contractual situation with AEW. I don't know if she's still under contract with AEW. But I think it would be a really interesting one, and certainly something I think that AEW would consider. Now, the second name that a lot of people jump to pretty quickly, and I think this is the obvious choice, even though for some reason I didn't think of this immediately. This wasn't the choice I went to as the obvious choice, but it is the most obvious choice. That is Vicky Guerrero. Now, we've seen Vicky Guerrero's relationship with AEW blossom recently. She appeared at Double or Nothing. She's appeared subsequently at a couple of Dynamites from Daily's Place. She has a lot of the AEW talent on her Excuse Me podcast. She's no longer affiliated with WWE. In fact, once she started to have AEW talent on her Excuse Me podcast, basically WWE completely washed their hands of her and didn't let any of her WWE talent go on her podcast or anything like that, which sucks. It's so petty. Don't get me started on anything like that. But Vicky Guerrero, she's also appeared on an episode of Dynamite, right? When they had the Inner Circle pep rally. After Double or Nothing, after the Stadium Stampede match, they had the Inner Circle pep rally, and the cheerleaders were led by Vicky Guerrero. So Vicky Guerrero has a relationship with AEW right now, I don't know if she's under contract as of yet with AEW, if she signed a deal or anything like that, but she seems like a natural fit because she's got the relationship with the company. I think a really interesting point, and this is maybe why it's the obvious choice and the choice that lots of people leapt to, was not only the fact that, of course, Vicky Guerrero has been recently appearing on episodes of Dynamite and AEW, just being in the crowd for the likes of Double or Nothing, and she even has been wearing an AEW mask when she's been out and about posting on Instagram. But a really interesting thing here, I mentioned Double or Nothing when Nyla Rose went up against Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's World Championship. The night Hikaru Shida defeated Nyla Rose for the AEW Women's World Championship. And Vicky Guerrero, like I mentioned earlier, was in the crowd for that match. And during that match, if you go back and watch it, and I remember watching it at the time and going, that is really interesting that she's doing this. Vicky Guerrero was openly cheering for Nyla Rose, openly cheering for the heel, saying, come on, Nyla, come on, Nyla. She looked unhappy when Nyla Rose lost. Now, I don't know if this has been AEW's plan all the way back to Double or Nothing in May. I don't know if that's the case. Or if that was just something that Vicky Guerrero was just, look, she's the ultimate heel, right? Could anyone get more heat than Vicky Guerrero? No. Vicky Guerrero was the ultimate heel magnet. Some of those receptions that she'd get in WWE in the late 2000s were legendary, right? She'd get booed out of the building. She'd get booed so loudly that when she's talking on a microphone, on a house microphone, the crowd couldn't hear what she was saying over the microphone. She was being booed that loudly. That doesn't happen in professional wrestling, in modern day professional wrestling. That is a very unique, count on one hand people that can do that in modern day pro wrestling, because it's so hard to get heat, to get real heat. Pro wrestling heels are cool now, right? That's how they're judged. If you're a good heel, that means you're a cool heel. A legitimate heel, which makes fans hate them, that's now classed as go away heat. So this is weird narrative with how heels work nowadays, but Vicky Guerrero made it work. She was a legitimate heel, had the crowd hating her and booing her so much that when she talked, people booed her out of the building, but you loved to boo her. And I can't think of anyone else that could do that, especially in modern day pro wrestling now. Even top heels like someone like Chris Jericho, you love Chris Jericho because he's Chris Jericho. He's a heel, but he's cool, right? I can't think of another heel like that, because people will say, well, King Corbin, I'm there. I don't like King Corbin. I think he's dull. I think he's boring. I think he's overpushed. And I do think his heat is go-away heat. I don't think there's anyone that has the heat like Vicky Guerrero had. So I think Vicky Guerrero being Nyla Rose's manager, I mentioned about taking them up a level. Vicky Guerrero being Nyla Rose's manager, that would just... stratosphere. It's instant credibility. You think of the people that Vicky Guerrero has managed throughout her career. Edge obviously being one. Her late husband Eddie Guerrero. She wasn't exactly his manager, but you know what I mean. She managed Chavo Guerrero, managed Dolph Ziggler. And we're talking the best one of all, right? Eric Escobar. No, I'm joking, of course. So Vicky Guerrero's instant credibility. She can cut a hell of a promo even now. And look, Vicky Guerrero, maybe it's just the fond memories of her now, but see her cut a promo again, even when she was part of the pep rally on Dynamite a few weeks ago, I just thought it was great. She's so entertaining. And look, she left the WWE back in, was it 2013, after being with the company for a long time. And I think at the time, she was just burnt out and she realised her run was over. And look, she was keeping up at the hectic live event schedule like most people were there. She didn't want to do it anymore, and she left and she went back to school and she qualified to become, I believe it was something like a nurse or a chemist or something along those lines. And she didn't need professional wrestling anymore. And to be honest, she's never needed it. She's, Vicky Guerrero. She's the widow of Eddie Guerrero, who is one of the best of all time. But she loves the business and she's great in it. She's so good in it. And obviously with AEW, you'd only have to do one date a week. It's in Florida. I don't know where she lives currently, but it's in Florida. She'd have to do one date a week. Go there, cut a few promos. She'd get guests for her podcast. It's win-win for her. It really is win-win for her. They treat her great as well. So Vicky Guerrero, I think, is the likely name here. But I like to see Awesome Kong too. I think that'd be a really fun name too. Now, two other names I thought of and that were being discussed on social media. One was Jazz. Now, Jazz, as far as I'm aware, she's not currently affiliated with any company. Previously, her last major thing she did, she was the NWA Women's Champion. I think before she lost it to Sienna. I might be wrong there. But she's not, so far as I'm aware, that she's affiliated to any company. She's been, prior to lockdown, she was doing independent shows. I know she did a show of Synergy Wrestling over the guys at Synergy Wrestling. Great guys. Make sure you hit those up on Twitter. And she's been doing independent stuff. I think Jazz would be fun. I think Jazz would be really fun. I mean, she's a mean, like dirty, back in the day, she was physical. I remember her run in WWE. I thought she was great. She used to bust up the likes of Trish Stratus and Lita. Obviously, her run prior to that in ECW I thought was great too. Big fan of Jazz. I'm not sure how it would work, the dynamic between her and Nyla Rose. And to be honest, and this is going to sound terrible, in terms of the name value of Jazz going up against a Vicky Guerrero or an Awesome Kong, does that really move the needle as much as AEW would want it to? Probably not. But I think it's a name to consider. It's certainly a name to consider. Like I said, she's not currently doing anything as far as I'm aware at the moment. And she's got a lot to offer. She could also not only just be the manager, she can still work. So if you wanted to have the manager that can also work quite a bit, look, you're not going to get a match out of Vicky Guerrero. And with Awesome Kong, like I said, I think her days in the ring are numbered anyway. So Jazz might be a fun one to do. I don't think it's likely, but it's a fun one to do. Now, finally, the last name people were saying was Jackie Moore. She is a WWE Hall of Famer. She was really enjoyed her run in the WWE as Jacqueline. Really enjoyed her run in TNA when she was the manager of Beer Money. Again, she's a great worker as well, a really great worker, and can cut a great promo. And that dynamic between her and Nyla Rose, again, would be really, really interesting. Now, do I think it's likely? I think it's more likely than a Jazz, but I think it's less likely than a Vicky Guerrero or an Awesome Kong. The reason I say I think it's unlikely is because I'm not sure what her current status is with WWE at the moment. Now, she got inducted to the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, which to me would suggest that she might still be under contract with WWE in terms of a Legends deal, which essentially is just WWE keeping as many people under contract as they can. They can do outside bookings, they can do independent dates, but everything on TV they have to run past WWE. So if Jackie is still under contract with WWE, even if it is a Legends deal, that basically gets this AEW deal off of the table. It wouldn't happen because she's under contract to WWE, and they still have a say on what she does in terms of booking. So I think that one's slightly less likely than Awesome Kong and Vicky Guerrero. It's more likely than Jazz. But again, I'm not sure the current status of Jackie's contract with WWE, if she's got anything with them. That goes the same with the likes of Medusa and some other WWE legends that I've seen some people throwing around. Again, I think with the likes of Medusa, I think, as far as I'm aware, she's under contract with WWE still. WWE Hall of Famer. Again, complete badass. Can cut a great promo. We saw her last in the ring at the Evolution pay-per-view back in 2018, and she still looks great. I mean, I'm sure Medusa could kick the hell out of me, and she's one of the toughest people. If you speak to anyone in professional wrestling that knows what they're talking about, they know that Medusa, Alundra Blaze, is legit. She's went over to Japan and used to kick the crap out of guys and got in the ring with guys, so she knows what she's doing. So I think, again, I'd really enjoy the dynamic between Nyla Rose and Alundra Blaze, especially considering what Medusa's history when it comes to TNT, right? Famously dropping the WWE Women's Championship in the trash on TNT, on Nitro. Would she come back to TNT again? After all that she went through to get back in the good graces of WWE, and even in her Hall of Fame speech, she takes the Women's Championship out of the trash, which apparently was a prerequisite for her even getting accepted. They said, look, we'll put you in the Hall of Fame, but you have to take the belt out of the trash. That's what you have to do. So would she really be, after all of that, be willing to go back on that, rewind and go back onto TNT? I mean, I don't know. Who knows? At the end of the day, money's money, right? So I don't know. Again, like the same with Jackie, I don't know her status when it comes to WWE. I would think she's under contract with WWE in terms of a Legends deal. She seems to have a really good relationship with WWE right now, especially a lot of the female workers on the roster, and she's been a big proponent of the women's evolution in WWE. So again, I don't think that one's likely. I just think that would be... I mean, it would be a huge moment to see Medusa back on TNT after all these years, and she's back competing with WWE on TNT. That would be nuts, right? Again, history repeating itself. Some people would then, I guess, complain that you're living in the past. You need to do new things. So again, I don't think the Medusa's one likely. If I had to put my neck out on the line, like I said, I would really enjoy the dynamic for a Nyla Rose and Awesome Kong partnership, but I don't think that's the case. I think the most likely one right now, in terms of who's available, in terms of relationships with AEW and appearances on AEW, to me, it looks a given that it's going to be Vicky Guerrero. And if, to be honest, if that's the case, then that's great. I am so happy to see Vicky Guerrero back on my TV screens. I've had a few interactions with her on social media, and she's been the nicest person. And just, again, her work speaks for itself, doesn't it? You got to remember, she got in the business at a time of great tragedy in her family, right? And she was coming into a business that she wasn't familiar with, that was her late husband's profession, and her late husband was so revered in professional wrestling and was such a big talent in professional wrestling. How do you even live up to that? You know, we talk about children living up to their parents, but how do you live up to your late husband being one of the best and most iconic wrestlers of all time? So again, how did she adapt to that? Brilliantly. So you can't discredit her for that. So I think it's most likely going to be Vicky Guerrero being revealed as Nyla Rose's manager. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts? Who do you think is going to be the manager for Nyla Rose in AEW going forward? When do you think Nyla Rose will reveal the identity of that manager? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Who do you think is going to be manager of Nyla Rose? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to WrestleNews 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms on the screen right now. That's at 365Wrestle on Twitter and at WrestleNews365 on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak with you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.